So most of you probably don't know me or know me from indoor. So let me introduce myself a little bit more. So my name is Michelle Mensing. I'm originally from Germany, but I've been living in the US now for the past 5 years. I am a player, an indoor player of San Francisco Cal Heat. But I'm also very active in the beach handball community over here in the US. Since 2016, I've been with the program playing, but then gradually transitioned into coaching and refereeing and all the other tasks that we have around beach handball. So I'm one of the only beach handball referees for the US, and also one of the 4 referees that were nominated to be representing the North American and Caribbean Handball Federation in the past beach handball championships in Trinidad and Tobago in 2019. I have served, and I'm currently serving as the assistant women's national team coach for beach handball for the US. So I've been to Russia in 2018. And if COVID would not have hit us, I would be right now in Greece getting ready for the Women's World Championship in Italy, which has been postponed. One of the tasks that I'm doing in the US also is I'm the founder of the US Beach Handball Tour, which is our largest grouping of beach handball tournaments in the US, and encompasses 6 tournaments by now, co-ed, female, male, whatnot, really to spread the sport and grow the sport here in the US. And before we dive into the rules, I actually want to show you a video, and I hope it goes over in a somewhat good quality to you.
So we really this is our signal to say getting around and getting to it's for 2 points when I'm speeding, and this is the one. I don't really know. We use them a lot. For 2 points, yeah. Why? It's a opportunity for us to make some fun at the court instead of too quickly, and we can get carrying around. But yeah. Can you show us some, I don't know, rolls or slidings or something you do? Okay, sure.
So this was a video from referees that we were active during the European Beach Handball Championships in 2015 in Lorette de Mar. And you can already see that when we compare the image we have of referees, especially coming from indoor handball, beach referees are a little bit more presented fun and really part of the show that is beach handball. And the same notion goes somewhat towards the sport itself. However, the main principle behind beach handball is really this notion of fair play and having fun and being able to enjoy the sport and enjoy the show. And the referees are a big part of that. So before we go into why they were rotating their arms and like doing a cartwheel just to show a 2-pointer, we have to go over the essential differences we have or we see between indoor handball and beach handball. And it starts with the playing court. From indoor, usually we have a 40-meter by 20-meter field. In beach, that is a little bit shortened. We have a 27 by 12-meter field with 2 goal areas and a playing area in between, the playing area being 15 by 12 meter. The goal areas, just like in indoor, they are 6 meter away from the goal. However, instead of curving, we have straight lines in beach. That is simply more practical when you do it in the sand. Good luck trying to keep up an arc without having any weights to put down your lines. That's why we have and we see those straight lines in beach handball. Around the field, we have what we call a free zone, or really a safety zone around the area, which has space for the different substitution areas, goalkeeper entry zones, and overall safety space so that spectators are not impeding with the game. We see that the field is somewhat horizontal mirrored, so each team has one side, so each team gets one substitution area and 2 goalkeeper entry zones, one of them being used per period. Game format is also a little bit different. We shortened the time frame because running 60 minutes full pace on the sand is near impossible. So we have 2 halves of 10 minutes in beach handball. It starts with a coin toss, and here that's already where the work of referees begins. So you are executing the coin toss with the teams. The winner of the coin toss gets to decide which goal they want to defend or which side they want to substitute on. After that, we start in the first period. Other than in indoor, there's not a single team that starts. We always start with a referee throw that you know from basketball, for example. That's how we start the period. And then each period has to end on an uneven score. And if a score is even, let's say the teams play 12-12 by the end of the 10 minutes, we go in a golden goal mode where whichever team scores first wins ultimately that period. After the first period, we have a 5-minute break for the teams. Then we go in a second period, which is played just like the first period. In beach handball, these periods are counted separately. You can compare it to volleyball, where we have different sets and the teams need to win sets. If we have one team winning both sets, like we see here with the first game where SF Calheed plays the LA Wizards, we have the first period being won by SF Calheed and the second period being won, then the result of the game is 2-0. However, if one period is won by one team and the other period is won by the second team, we go in what we call a shootout. That is ultimately a third period in the game, and that will decide who ultimately wins the game. And we go later into how the shootout looks like, how it's being executed. But already for you to know, as referees, again, you start the shootout with the coin toss, where you decide, or where the winner can decide either which goal they wish to defend on, or if they want to shoot first or second. The shootout is basically penalty shots, or comparable to the penalty shots we sometimes see in indoor tournaments. So going first or second is a real advantage or disadvantage depending on the mental state of the teams. The ball is also a little bit different. Since we're on the sand, if we would just play with indoor balls, they would get uncatchable very quickly. So we actually have a non-slip rubber ball. And those of you familiar with sizes of handballs, we actually see that the sizing is also a little bit different. In indoor, typically a size 2 ball is a women's ball. In beach handball, a size 1 is the women's ball, size 2 is the men's ball. That's simply because we haven't seen a lot of development in the youth so far, though. So actually not many manufacturers have size 0 balls for children to play beach handball right now. For a game in indoor, we always need two handballs. However, in beach, we need 4 beach handballs because we want to keep the game fast and moving. And we always have to counter in that if we're playing on the beach where potentially we have no stop nets or no walls around our court, if we would just play with 1 or 2 balls, a thrown out ball would delay the game massively. So we actually have 4 balls at least at the start of a match available, 1 being the playing ball, 1 being at the table for the referee, for the scorekeeper and timekeeper, and then 1 ball behind each goal, so they can essentially restart the game as quickly as possible once a ball misses the goal, for example. When we look at the teams, in indoor, we know we have 14 to 16 players in some leagues per team. In beach handball, the maximum is 10 players per team. 6 of your team has to have a minimum of 6 players present at the start of the match. And during the match, you can drop to 4 players, but if you drop below 4 players due to, for example, disqualification or exclusions, you will forfeit the game and the other team wins. So usually what we see on the field is you have a maximum of 3 court players and a maximum of 1 goalkeeper or specialist. We call the goalkeeper also specialist because in beach handball, they actually get to attack with the team. So they leave their goalkeeper, and as soon as they leave the goal area, they become a regular player, just with a differently marked jersey and a couple of other additional specialties that will give an advantage in the game. For the officials, you can have a maximum of 4 officials per team, but only 2 of them are actually allowed in the free zone or in the court area. So you see here on the right-hand side, the light blue bubbles are the officials. 2 are inside the area, the other 2, usually the medical team or an analyst or a physical trainer would be outside the court because they're not necessarily needed in the game right away. However, they can get called in whenever an injury occurs, so they are to be considered by the referees. And it's the referee's task actually to make sure that only 2 officials are in the free zone at the start and throughout the game. As I already mentioned, goalkeepers and specialists, they have to wear a different colored uniform that is contrasting to the one that their teammates are wearing, but also their opponents. We know that from indoor pretty much, where except with a new rule where we can now substitute a player in without changing the jersey color. Previously, it was the same where the player also needed to have the goalkeeper's jersey color before entering the field as a 7th player. When we talk about the equipment, these are the equipment guidelines that are used in international competitions. I urge you, and especially from the women's side, I urge you, pick what's comfortable for the players that you're having your leagues with, because not everyone, especially females, are not comfortable in just playing with a sports bra and bikini bottoms. So it's up to you in your league to change that equipment guideline, but on international competitions, it's still that the women have to wear a sports bra and a bikini bottom, the men a tank top and shorts, except if there's cold weather, which obviously can happen as well. That's when teams can go to long sleeves and long panties. However, all players are usually playing barefoot. You can wear socks, for example, if the sand is super cold or super hot, but the socks have to be cloth. They cannot be the typical sand socks. Again, that's up to the tournament organizers to decide ultimately, but in international competition, that is the guideline. Medical bandages or other equipment needs to be soft and cannot be hard and a potential danger to other players around you. Now the thing that really makes beach handball somewhat a different game from the indoor version, and that is the substitutions. We have on our side of the field, so every team gets one sideline of the field assigned. We're not sitting like in indoor on one side. It's really team A has the side that's nearer to us right now, and team B has the side that's further to us. In between the 6-meter lines from the goal area, that is what we call the substitution zone, where all the field players can sub in and sub out with another player at any point in time and in any location. So if we look at Team B's substitution strategy right now, is they actually have a couple of players waiting here on their offense and a couple players waiting on their defense. And what they do is when they are in defense, they have this player in. Once the ball gets scored, they sub this player out and somebody in attack goes in. You don't have to sub in the same location where you're subbing out, which gives a huge strategical advantage when you're playing there. When you first see teams playing, especially when they have not played in higher competition, you also see Team A's kind of substitution, where they have all their players waiting in their defense zone. The players go out to defense and then really go for the attack, play with the attack, and after their attack, they switch out. You can also have players running all the time back and forth, but you can imagine that in sand, that requires a lot of condition, and it's not something that I would recommend necessarily to play throughout the entire game. The goalkeepers have a little different substitution pattern. So the goalkeepers have their own entry zones. However, they share the substitution. They share the zone where they can leave the court. So any player can leave the court anywhere on the sideline. It can be also outside of the substitution zone. However, entry for field players only through the substitution zone. Entry for goalkeepers only through their goalkeeper entry zone. We can see here that this goalkeeper is going in, working for defense, and then actually attacking with the team, doing the attack and subbing out. That is one way of playing, and it requires that the player is good in goalkeeping and good in attacking. And then we have other strategies where we can see that the goalkeeper is actually, once he gets scored on or once he saved the ball, he passes it on, switches out, and another goalkeeper goes in for his attack. And that is what we usually call the specialist, because that usually is not a goalkeeper, it's just a very good shooter in these cases, and comes in and basically splits the task with the actual goalkeeper attending. So you can already see, since the goalkeeper is moving, you need to have at least 2 goalkeepers or 1 goalkeeper and a specialist on your team to really play effectively beach handball. So let's add a little bit of movement. So we see here the Caro team is attacking against the circles, right? The green marked player here is the specialist of their team. He's putting pressure, or he or she is putting pressure on the defense, plays an in-flight to the pivot who scores, and that's when the substitution really starts. So we see the circles are running as fast as they can out to the sideline, and the Caros are also running out here. As a referee, you are the triangle signs here. We have 1 referee who is responsible for deciding whether this was a goal or not. As a referee, you stand here on the goal outer line. The second referee, you are in the field, and as soon as the substitution starts, you actually also run out to the sideline to return here, because if you would just run back straight, you impede the incoming substitution players. So if we move this a little bit further, we see all the bubbles are out. The first circle has already left the field, so the first player can sub in here. Same on this side. Playing it all the way forward, we see the full switch happening. The goalkeeper still here hasn't passed the ball to a player yet. The referee moving already in the field here, and the other referee ready to judge any goal happening on this goal line again. Goalkeeper passes the ball to one of the field players, runs out, and the specialist subs in for him. At this time already, you as a referee can go inside the field, but you have to keep an eye on that substitution, because if it's a faulty substitution, you would still need to call it. So it requires a little bit of peripheral vision from this referee at the point of the substitution. You have to judge the substitution, you have this referee to help you, but also the timekeeper and scorekeeper to keep track of correct substitutions of the teams. So let's take a look at the goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, just like in indoor, you are allowed to touch the ball with any part of the body while you are in the act of the defense. If you're moving with the ball inside the goal area, you are subject to, sorry, again. So if you move the ball inside the goal area, you are not subject to the rules that usually apply to court players. So you can take more than 3 steps. You can wait a little bit longer than the 3 seconds because you're still in the goal area. Once you leave it, you become subject to the rules of a field player. If you leave the goal area with the ball and you have it under control, and you don't have it under control, so it's bouncing or you're fumbling, but you start touching it in the goal area and you, with that fumble, carry it over the goal area, that is still completely fine and allowed, and it sometimes happens. What you're not allowed to do is, in the act of defense, endanger an opponent. That is also the same as an indoor. That doesn't change. However, it's a little bit more easy to happen because a lot of players are actually jumping quite far into the room, and you're trying to close off a lot of space as a goalkeeper in beach handball. So collisions of that nature are more likely, and we as referees have to make sure that this doesn't happen. So if you see a goalkeeper really getting very close to attacking players in the act of defense, or getting to a space where you see a potential collision happening, warn them. Give them a verbal warning. Make them understand, hey, you're going into a space where it's not safe and it's not in the line of fair play anymore. You cannot carry the ball over the 6 meter, just like in indoor, and you cannot re-enter the goal area with the ball in your hands. All these rules stay the same from indoor, the same as if you are using a foot or a leg or anything below the knee while you're not anymore defending in the goal area, it will be a free throw for the other team. Because again, you're only allowed to use your full body in the act of defense. So if the ball is rolling towards the 6 meter line, for example, you cannot just kick it out. And the same also applies in indoor. One big difference to how we treat the goal area, however, is in indoor, if the ball would be where we see it here, just behind the 6 meter line, you would not be allowed to grab it. That is different in beach handball. In beach handball, you can actually go for that ball, grab it, as long as you don't touch or don't make contact with the goal area yourself while doing that. So what happens when the court player enters the goal area? It depends on what actually was happening, right? So, for example, if you are carrying the ball over as a field player into the goal area, then just like in indoor, we see a goalkeeper throw. If you are entering the court area to deflect or to prevent somebody else's scoring opportunity, like we see in the picture, we actually decide for a 6 meter. Same as we know from indoor. There are a couple of situations where a player entering the goal area is not penalized, and that is when you're landing, for example, out of a defending motion in the goal area, or you land after a shooting motion and you already release the ball when you throw. Again, all of that is very, very common, and we know that from indoor. You can also enter the goal area for a quick time without the ball. For example, you're stepping as a defender, you just do one step back into the goal area. That's not going to be penalized unless you take advantage of that motion to actually deflect the shot. So if you as a player, however, play the ball back into your own team's goal area, right? There's a couple of situations that we as referees have to go through. If the playback results in the ball actually ending up in the goal, it is a regular goal. So that's a self goal that needs to be counted. If the ball itself comes to rest in the goal area, or if the goalkeeper touches the ball and it does not enter the goal, it's a free throw for the other team. If the ball goes out over the outer line, we have a throw-in from the opposing team. And the play just continues if the ball, for example, happens to bounce back on the goal post, which technically it enters the goal area, but just bounces back into the field. In general, any blocking motion that a defender does is not considered an active playing of the ball into the goal area, so these rules wouldn't apply in that situation. So let's look at what is permitted in beach handball when it comes to playing the ball. Beach handball, as I said in the beginning, it's a non-contact sport. So when we're playing the ball, we always have to remember that. So players are permitted to dive for the ball when it's laying or on the ground or rolling on the sand. That is completely fine, but you really should make sure that you're not harming other players while doing so. You can hold the ball for a maximum of 3 seconds. Also, when it's laying on the ground, it can lay on the ground for 3 seconds. If it remains longer on the sand, however, then another player has to pick it up. If you were to pick it up, it would be a free throw for the other team. And just like in indoor, you can take a maximum of 3 steps with the ball in your hands. Steps in beach handball don't have to be just regular steps. It can also be frog jumps. So really you jumping with both feet and touching again with both feet at the same time is a regular step and can be used in any of the 1, 2, 3 steps as a preparation. Players, however, are not permitted to touch the ball with foot or leg or anything below the knee. That will result in a free throw for the other team. One thing that I didn't put on the slide, but from indoor we know we can dribble. You can technically also dribble in beach handball. It's not disallowed. However, it's not usually in sand near to impossible. There are some players that actually manage to dribble on the sand, but there are very few. Instead of dribbling, you can tap the ball over the ground in a continuous motion. So that basically replaces your dribbling. And again, with the ball moving, it can be also longer than 3 seconds. But usually, I haven't seen any situation where somebody would do that motion for longer or throughout the entire court, because then usually a defender jumps in and tries to snatch the ball beforehand. So you can catch the ball, put it on the ground with little taps, dribble it, pick it up again, and then do your 3 steps, pass or shoot. We also have passive play in beach handball. Again, if the team in possession is not making any recognizable attempt to attack or try to score, it is recorded as a passive play, just like we know in indoor. And it's also the same forewarning signal that we know from the indoor version. However, other than in indoor, there's no fixed number of passes that can be done. And usually it is a lot shorter the time of period that we would give someone for passive play. So in beach handball, usually it's around 2 or 3 passes maximum that referees will allow once the forewarning signal has been raised. However, there are some situations where we can also decide for passive play right away, and that is when a player intentionally does not take their clear scoring chance. So if you picture an attacker really standing at the 6-meter line, the defenders are nowhere near him, and he decides to pass away. That is something where we can call direct passive play, no forewarning signal. It is a free throw for the other team. If you are dealing with beginners for beach handball, that is something they will not know about. So here we have to referee a little bit more, or apply a little bit more educational refereeing and really telling them about this circumstance in the first occasion that we see, and not directly penalize it, right? So we really get them to get on board with the game, get on board with the rules, and not just penalize them for not knowing the rules. Else in unsportsmanlike conduct. So it is permitted to use your arms and hands to block or gain possession of the ball. You can have your open hands to play a ball away. It shouldn't be a fist to play a ball away. You can use your whole body to obstruct an opponent. And you can even, to some extent, make body contact with an opponent. However, that has to be minimal, and intentional body contact is something that we as referees also have to forbid and disallow, and make the players aware that we're watching them if they're really initiating too much contact. A situation where contact is almost unavoidable is when you have a pivot player within the defense line. They have to be in contact, or they will always have some level of contact, but it's usually without ball, and therefore that would be the contact that would fall under the actions that are permitted. Now, looking at what is not permitted. It's not permitted to pull or hit the ball out of the hands opponent. So if the opponent is standing with the ball right in front of you, just that slapping motion is not allowed. And it's really tempting. And we see a lot of players, especially when they're coming from indoor handball to the beach, that is the first thing they do. So that, again, is not permitted, and that needs to be punished progressively, ultimately. You're not allowed to block or force away an opponent with your arms, hands, and legs. Think about the kind of the restrictions we also have in indoor to set a guard or set a screen in the defense as a pivot. That is kind of the same interaction or same measurement we have to apply here to the judgment of the body contact and the blocking motion. You're not allowed to restrain, hold, punch, run, or jump into an opponent, especially the jump into an opponent. That can happen because a lot of players or a lot of teams will try to pass an in-flight, make an in-flight pass to their teammate two people, one from the defending and one from the attacking team, are jumping for the ball at the same time without seeing each other, they will collide eventually. And you have to judge as a referee, was the collision initiated intentionally or was it unintentionally? And they were really just reaching for the ball. However, still contact happens and we have to follow up with action. So if unintentional contact happens, and it was, for example, a clear scoring chance, we give the 6 meter to still award the chance that was taken away by the contact. If there was intentional contact, we apply progressive punishment, and we also apply judgment how severe the ultimate foul was. So let's talk about the scoring and deciding the final outcome. So when a goal is scored in beach handball, you either get 1 or 2 points awarded. And let's look at the situations where you get 2 points. So you get 2 points automatically for any 6 meter throw that is executed properly. You get 2 points automatically if you are the goalkeeper or the specialist. And that's why they are marked with a different jersey. So we as referees know, and we as referees also have to keep track whether the one that shot on the goal was wearing the specialist jersey and therefore gets 2 points awarded. The third option is to shoot in a creative or spectacular way. Internationally, there are really only 2 spectacular ways recognized at this point. One is the 360-degree jump throwing motion, and the second one is the alley-oop or in-flight pass. In Germany, that's called Kemper. In France, it's called Fly. So it's really, everyone has their name, but it's really just a pass in flight to another player. So let's look at how to actually score with a 360 motion. We as referees, we have to decide whether the motion that we're seeing was a full 360 or was not. So the way we do that is we look at the feet of the player jumping to score and the feet positioning. Usually the feet should be pointing towards the goal when they start their rotation. Right-handed players, when we think about it, and they're coming out of a spin, out of the motion, right? So right-handed players will usually turn counterclockwise towards the left for their 360. Left-handed players will turn clockwise towards their right side. Not everyone is pointing their feet always towards the goal. And this is where you as a referees really need to pay attention whether it's a right-handed or a left-handed player. Because taking the example of a right-handed player, if a right-handed player attacks from the left wing and the feet are pointing towards the sideline and not towards the goal, and we see the 360 motion, it will not be a full 360 because this is the direction of him shooting. And we really count only the turn that was done with the ball in the hand and not without the ball, because you could throw and then complete your spin, but that's really not what we consider a full 360. On the pivot, usually we don't see a lot of misplaced feet. Here we also have a little bit of flexibility, since if we take the area to aim for as the 2 goal posts, then even a little shift to the left or the right is not that critical. And if a right-handed player is doing a spin with the feet pointing towards the outer goal line and not the goal, from the right side, they are actually doing more than a 360 spin. So 390 degrees. That's why you have to, 1, look at the feet, and 2nd, look at which is their throwing arm at this point. If we turn it to the left hand, right, we have the more than 360 degree shot on the left side, and the less than 360-degree shot on the right side. And let me see if I can pull up the video I have. All right, here we see Croatia against Egypt. We see that 360-degree shot from Croatia. And we can actually see and hear that the referee is giving 2 points for that. Now again, we have to pay attention to the feet at this moment. So let's play it a little bit slower so we can really take a look at the feet. And this will be the most challenging aspect really of you being a referee in beach handball. Judging whether the feet have been correctly placed or not. So we see the circular motion, the referee gives 2 points. However, if we look at this perspective of the jump, we can see the feet are actually not pointing towards the goal when the player attempts the shot. Therefore, not completing a full 360-degree. And we use this as one of the videos to really show the difference, but also show how difficult it is to actually see the foot placement correctly. So US referees, and that is something that will only come through continuous studying of that 360 motion because it's so far into the indoor handball motions that we're used to. You have to train to recognize the foot position in sand, right? The sand can also be bulgy and not very smooth. And so it's really difficult to look at the feet. And another question I get always asked is, can I do the 360 motion off of a single leg? In general, it's not forbidden. However, if a player jumps off a single leg, it's even harder for me as a referee to judge whether he or she completed a full 360. So the recommendation is really that you plant both of your feet for the 360, go in the spinning motion, and execute the shot that way to give the referees an easier time, but also for yourself as a player, really make sure that you're getting the points that you deserve, and not make it extra hard for a referee to really judge that fact. So let's talk about the golden goal and the shootout. As I said before, if the score is even at the end of a period, we go into a golden goal. So that means we restart again with a referee throw, and whoever scores first, and it doesn't have to be a 2-pointer or a 1-point shot, it can be a 1-point shot. Whoever scores first in that half will win the period. If both teams win 1 period each, we go in the shootout. In the shootout, each team will nominate 5 players that are taking the throws for their team. The other players are sitting out. And everyone sits on the sideline of the field in a seated position. If the goalkeeper is one of the throwers, then he's also considered a regular court player. In international competition, you even have to change your jersey to a field player when you are the goalkeeper running and going for the throw yourself. We use a coin toss to decide who is defending which goal and who goes first or second in the shootout. And if we've taken, we always execute all 5 throws of each team when we are in the group phase. If we are in KO games and the score already makes it unachievable for the other team to win at a point, we can interrupt the shootout earlier. But usually in group play, you will play all 5 goals because they count towards the goal difference in the end. And that's why in group play, it's always important to play all 5 attempts. If after these 5 attempts by each team, we still have a tie, we go for a goal mode. So a sudden death mode, also called. So each team nominates 1 player each that shoot, and which team ever scores more in that attempt wins. If both teams either not score or both score with the same point amount, then that continues. And it can go up from the highest possible score in just the 5 players taking a shot is 10 points, right? With every throw gets 2 points. But I've seen games where it goes up to 18-17 with the sudden death mode because the teams were just so level in their ability to score. So let's look at how we play the shootout. As I said, we have both teams lining up at the sidelines seated. Here in our picture, the circular team starts. So we have the thrower standing on the crossing of the sight line and the 6-meter line. And we have both goalkeepers on their goal lines in their respective goals. The player passes the ball on the signal of the whistle to the goalkeeper. The referees, we have one positioned here at the 6-meter. This referee is responsible for watching that this goalkeeper is not overcrossing the 6-meter line when passing, and that there's no collision happening or judging contact with the goalkeeper. The other referee, again, is only responsible to watch the goal line and assist with the judgment of potential collisions in the field. So the ball is played to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper can move with the ball. Again, no limitation in steps in the goal area, and usually they go a little bit further, so that they keep their opportunity to shoot directly. So from this situation here, this goalkeeper could attempt a shot directly at the goal, or the goalkeeper can pass to the player running down the field. The other goalkeeper usually will come out a little bit because in international competition, or in general in competition, as a goalkeeper, you can go even out of your goal area and go closer to the player to stop or interrupt their movement here. Again, it has to happen without contact. So in this decision, or in this situation, we have the goalkeeper passing to the player here. The other goalkeeper stays back in the goal. The referee moves with the situation to judge now the interaction with the 6-meter line, whether there is a violation, and ultimately the player scores. The players can do any allowed throwing motion. So they can do a regular shot, but they can also attempt a 360, or they can attempt an in-flight pass with their goalkeeper. So you have to be ready to judge again the 360 motion, as well as potential other throws. If the defending goalkeeper comes out, you also have to make sure that you're judging the contact. If the contact is initiated by the goalkeeper is directly disqualified. Again, no contact sport, so especially in a shootout situation where the goalkeeper has full control, it is dangerous if they would initiate contact. If the field player initiates the contact, however, we can see an offensive charge. That is possible in shootout. It's usually unlikely or not that common, but it can happen. Again, a couple of special rules to the shootout, right? If the number drops below 5 in a round, so let's say because of suspensions or disqualifications, the other team is actually down to 4 players, they will only get 4 attempts to shoot. They cannot reuse one of their players to shoot the 5th one. But they might win still with just 4 players if the other team, for example, misses all all their attempts. And again, what it just touched on, if the defending goalkeeper is violating a rule by, for example, initiating contact, that goalkeeper is disqualified, and there's a 6-meter throw called for the player. The 6-meter throw can be executed by anyone. It doesn't have to be executed by the player that was actually fouled. There are sometimes conditions we're playing outside where the sun is really favoring playing on one goal. And in shootout, that's where the referees can decide both teams play at the same goal. Otherwise, you would have 2 goals that you play the shootout on. Throughout the shootout, we only use a single ball, and both teams will use that ball, so they have to pass it over. Some tournaments do that each team gets their ball, but usually it's just one ball. We already talked about the referee throw, right? We use it to start each half. We use it in the golden goal situation. As a referee, we have one referee staying in the center, tossing up the ball. The other referee is on the opposite side, outside of the sideline, and also opposite to the timekeeper and scorekeeper table, so that they can communicate with both you, the second referee, and the table at the same time. They will blow the whistle, and that's when you toss up the ball. The ball has to have reached its highest point before it can be played. So if it's still in an upward motion and the players are playing the ball, then you have to redo the referee throw. Also, and that happens a lot when you first start with the referee throws, if you throw it up and it goes all the way sideways, also just redo it, otherwise you're giving the advantage to one of the teams. For the teams, they will assign one player to jump for the referee throw, and that the player will be in a center with you, standing on the side of their team, their team's goalkeeper. Throwing is really the same as we have it in indoor. Same execution, also 1 foot on the line. We throw it from there. The only difference is in indoor, we have usually 3-meter distance between someone executing a throw or a free throw. In beach handball, that's just 1 meter because we have a smaller field. Goalkeeper throw, also again, it's same as we know it from indoor. So whenever a goal is scored, or if the goal has been missed and the ball goes behind the field without contact of your own team, we have a goalkeeper throw, and we as referees just signalize it. There's no need to also have a whistle signal accompanying that. And that's really all there is to the goalkeeper throw. You can have one special thing is when you are having a team that substitutes their goalkeeper for a specialist, the goalkeeper has to actually put the ball back into play before they can do the substitution. Again, that's something that you just have to be strict about. Otherwise, the teams are not going to learn it because they're going to just attempt it and do that exactly. So just call them back, say no, the other goalkeeper has to bring the ball back into play, and then they can do their substitution. Free throw, again, same as an indoor, just that we have 1 meter distance instead of 3-meter distance from the opponent. Also, free throw is usually taken without a whistle signal, unless we, as referees, have called a timeout before. In beach handball, we have 6-meter throws instead of 7-meter throws. That's, again, just practicality because nobody can just have a second 7-meter line just to mark that distance. So 6-meter is the throw when a clear chance of scoring is destroyed by anyone or on the field. It could also be interfering objects. So one of the examples that is named in some referee guidelines, for example, if a bird was hit by a ball that was targeted on goal, that is such an interference by someone. Again, we're playing outside, and a 6 meter would be awarded in that situation. In general, when we are awarding a 6 meter, we first do a strong, long whistle with pointing towards the 6 meter and us entering towards the field to signalize that we are calling for a 6 meter throw. And then right after, we have to show a timeout sign so that the timekeeper can stop the clock. And that is mandatory for every 6 meter in beach handball. And if a goal is scored by a 6 meter throw, we award 2 points as a result. Again, what is a clear chance of scoring, right? Somebody who has full control over the ball, but also his body, who's just outside the goal area and really has no one blocking his path to the goal. The other opportunity, if you're in a counter attack, right, and a player is in movement, running or dribbling with the ball, completely alone towards the goalkeeper, that would also be considered a clear chance of scoring, as well as since the goalkeeper substitution actually gives us opportunities where the goal is completely empty, that will be also considered a clear chance of scoring if somebody were to attempt throwing at the goal at this time and would be prevented by that. In general, for all the for the goalkeeper throw, the 6 meter or free throw, you have to have at least one put in constant contact with the ground. That's the same in indoor. The goalkeeper throw actually can be executed also out of a jump. Really, the goalkeeper in the goal area is free to pass or shoot the ball however they like, as long as it's done with the hand and not with any other body parts. As a referee, we have to blow the whistle to restart the play, always in case of a 6 meter throw, because we stop the time as well, after a timeout. And then in the case of throw-ins or goalkeeper throws or free throws, if they have been delayed or if we needed to correct players' positioning, for example, keeping the distance, as well as sometimes when we just give a verbal cautioning or a warning towards players and want to encourage them to continue with the game. So let's talk about the punishment. So in indoor, we have 2 minutes and we have yellow and red cards. We don't have all of these opportunities in beach handball. We also have progressive punishment, and the steps that we see here is 1, the verbal warning. After that, we go into a suspension, and a suspension is signalized with the gesture that you see in the picture. That could be, for example, for initiated contact on a 360 or on an in-flight shot, where it really endangered the player, but it wasn't really severe. A faulty substitution could be counted toward a suspension or other things. We will see a player can have only 1 suspension. The second suspension will actually lead to direct disqualification. You can also get directly disqualified, for example, if you are committing a severe unsportsmanlike gesture, like grabbing into someone's throwing arm, spitting at someone, hitting someone, or really committing an assault. Again, suspensions, they can be given for any fouls or similar infractions, but it's really up to us as referees to judge when we think and where our line is, right? When we think a suspension should be given or not. But there are certain situations where we have to give a suspension. and that is the faulty substitution or illegal entering. If players are repeatedly committing the same type of fouls and you've already given a warning, for example, repeated unsportsmanlike conduct by any player on the court or outside the court, failure to drop the ball, any other infractions when it comes to delaying opponents' formal throws, or just as a consequence of a disqualification of a player or a team official during the playing time. Since the team official is not actively participating in the game, if they get a disqualification, we have to reduce the team by 1, so any player can take that suspension. As I said, the second suspension leads to an automatic disqualification. Other than in indoor, we don't have a time limit on the suspension. The suspended player may re-enter the court as soon as there's a turnover of the game. So we see a change in possession of the ball for the player, for the team. Disqualifications, again, really repeated unsportsmanlike contact by any team official has to be, that already has received a suspension, has to be punished with a disqualification. The second occasion, any fouls that we judge as they are endangering the opponent's health, may it intentionally or unintentionally. We really need to protect players, and the referees are the ones that keep the pace of the game and can really make sure that players are safe and feeling safe when playing. In general, assault by a player or a team official, it could be for unsportsmanlike conduct outside of playing times. So, for example, during the halftime, that could be given. Or, as we already talked about, in the shootout, if the goalkeeper is the one initiating contact, that's where we also give a direct disqualification of that player. This is just technicalities, so if infractions occur outside of the playing time, then if it's happening during the halftime, we can give a verbal warning or we can give a disqualification. We cannot give a suspension in that time because the game is not in play. If an infraction occurs after the game, because the players are angry or any other situation happens, then our only option is to write a written report to the organizers of the tournament, and they will take care of potential punishments and evaluate the situation and what needs to be done afterwards. So really, you as referee, you observe and control the score. The way you judge infractions and give fouls and punishments really influences how the game goes and how the players feel about it and how you feel about it when judging the game, right? If there's any doubt about the accuracy of the timekeeping, usually when you have untrained timekeepers or scorekeepers, right, then you as a referee pair will come to the decision of what to be done, and might have to keep the time yourself. Again, the referees are if there's no delegate presence, the referees are the highest decision-making organ on the court. But you really work as a team with the delegates, the timekeepers, and scorekeeper, especially when it comes to judging substitution faults, because that is a task on top of all the other tasks that you're trying to see and judge. Can get really overwhelming. So make sure that you inform the timekeepers and scorekeepers that they also have to have an eye on that situation. And then again, all the decisions, especially the 360 decisions, there will be times where players will argue or they will not understand why you've given just 1 point or 2 points, right? So it's really about good body language, and also making them understand what you've seen and what you've based your judgment ultimately on, to bring them ultimately to your side and make them understand where you're coming from. All right. Couple of hand signals. Most of them should be familiar to you from indoor. In beach handball, we actually have an advantage sign, so we can encourage players to play on. Double dribble, traveling or holding the ball for more than 3 seconds, restraining, holding, hitting, offensive foul. All these gestures are familiar. Throw in, goalkeeper throw, free throw, all these are the same. Keeping the distance, again, in beach, it's just 1 meter, not 3. And then signalizing how many points you've got. So we have 1 point and we have 2 points. And usually the 2-point motion, the 2-point signal is combined with some turn motion to make it more spectacular. And as you progress as a referee, you are also encouraged to actually do a cartwheel or do some other type of spin to make it more showy that somebody is getting 2 points, to really pay attention or give the player credit to that they've gone for a spectacular or an attractive throw at this point. We have the suspension gesture, we have the disqualification, which is signaled with a red card, and we have the timeout signal like we do in indoor. Injuries happen, unfortunately. If an injury occurs on the field, we call the 2 people in. If a 3rd person enters the court, it is a substitution violation that has to be punished with suspension. And also, if the players are coming in before you call them or before you give them the permission to enter, also there we have to apply the substitution rules. And lastly, the forewarning signal for passive play. That was it. I know it was a lot in one setting, so I encourage you to actually read through the actual rules and go through the actual one-pager. I have on my website, I have a quick one-pager that's also downloadable for tournament organizers with a quick overview for the rules. That's especially helpful for players to get them started. And then also, as you progress in your referee knowledge, you can take the beach handball referee quiz. I have a website, it's also on the website, and really test your knowledge in all the technicalities and the in-depth decision-making that needs to be done and the situations that occur. And again, always feel free to reach out to me if you need any help, have any questions in regards to rules or to the game itself, how to get started. I'm really interested in growing the sport and spreading the sport, and I really hope that you guys have a great start in your beach league.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, I have a few. Michelle, with the specialist, when they enter the court, so when they leave the court, they can leave anywhere in the substitution area, correct?
Even outside of that, yes.
Yeah. When they enter the court, must they enter in the goal substitution area, or can they enter in the middle zone, the playing
They
zone?
are considered goalkeepers as well, so they have to go in through the goalkeeper entry zone.
They must enter in the goalkeeper entry zone, but can exit in any substitution area.
Yes.
I got a few. Foot slides under the line. So you're going for a shot and it kind of goes under the line, or you touch it. How's that?
That is the same as if you would step over it. It's really crossing the line is the violation, right? You have to apply the rules. What happens if a player steps into the goal area? Sometimes we have to be a little careful, right? Because if we step in the sand also shifts. So sometimes, especially if we see these noodle types of lines that we have here, sometimes that line moves because the sand moved it and not the foot. So here as a referee, we have to apply a little bit of judgment. Was it really a foot under the line, or was it just sand that moved because my foot was placed right before?
Corner throw, which we don't really have corner throws because there's no corner, but so the ball goes out off the defending, off the end line. Does it get taken at the sideline on the 6 or the 7? Like, do they have to be 1 meter away? I can't remember.
Yes, they have to be 1 meter away. Excellent point. So if you and that is probably a part where a lot of players still struggle with, or actually that's not super clear mentioned in the rules. So if a goalkeeper deflects the ball and it goes out on the sideline, it is like in indoor if it would go out on the sideline and not the goal area. So you would start with a throw in 1 meter away from the 6 meter of the other team. And that's usually where in indoor we think, oh, this is still my goal area, so this should be treated like the goal line behind me, so there wouldn't be a throw in usually. But this is still the sideline. So if the ball goes out here, it is a throw in. If it goes out here after the goalkeeper touches it, it's a goalkeeper throw.
If a goalie scores from within their own goal area, 1 or 2 points?
2 points.
It's 2. The double is there. So can I touch the ball twice? Is there a double dribble? So I'm running 3 steps, touch the ball down to the ground. I got 3 more. Can I do it again, or is that double dribble?
That would be a double dribble.
Okay.
And actually, good that you mention it. So the dribbling part, right? You really have to, once you put the ball on the sand, you have to let go of it. If you just take the ball and just dip it in the sand and pull it up again, that is already considered a double dribble. So you really have to release it as a player.
Shootout, 6th shooter in a shootout. If you need a 6th shooter, can it be one of the first 5? Does it have to be one of the first 5?
It can be one of the first 5. It can be anyone on the team. So if we're past the first 5, we basically select mentally. We select the next 5, which can be again anyone on the team. Some that have already taken a shot, or some that are not. But the mode itself is the sudden death mode.
Okay, and the last one on the shootout. Does the shooting player starts with the ball, passes back to the goalie, correct?
Yes.
Uh,
Let me just go to it here.
So passes back to the goalie. Goalie starts on the 6 meter line, but can move as soon as the ball's in the air.
Yes.
Opposite goalies on the 6 meter line can move as soon as the ball's in the air.
Yes,
Ball
they're not
touches,
on the 6, they're on the goal line.
sorry, on the goal line. Can this shooter start from either corner, or does he have to start in his own substitution side?
They can start from either corner, and it is recommended that right-handed players start on the left side, like we see here, and left-handed on the other side. And the referee position would basically be oriented according to where the player is, right? So we are always opposite from the throwing player and in line with the throwing player on the far.
And just last clarification, ball touches the ground at any point on a shootout, it's done, right? Dead?
Right.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Well, thank you very much. It really was helpful.
Yeah, sure. And again, like if you need more knowledge, anything specific, any questions, or again, I'm here to help. So from the USA Federation, but also from the North American Caribbean Federation. And really hope that you guys are joining us on the next circuit.
Yeah. Well, right now we have 14 teams registered, so far it's pretty good. But I'm sure we'll be emailing you, asking questions as soon as we start playing. about the little rules.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike, did you say you have 14 teams in Edmonton, or that was?
Yeah.
And are you guys playing co-ed, or how are you playing?
We have U19 boys and girls that just it's boys and girls, like it's gender, and then for the older one we're just doing mix.
And then, so there's U19 and mixed. There's no younger ones. You don't have anything under, or
Not so far yet. There's still registration open, but as
okay.
right now, there's a U19 boys category, U19 girls category, and then an open category.
Okay. How are you dealing the cohort, the 50 cohort? Are your U19s like they're within?
It's
they're managing
separate
within
days. So like each category is on a different day or a different time. So if it's U19 girls, it goes from like 10 to 2 on a Sunday, and then after they're done, then the like U19 boys come.
Okay.
So it's different times, and then the open is Friday evenings.
Okay. Okay.
And then the referees are coming within their cohort.
All right.
So
Okay.
then there's not extra people.
What's happening in the States, Michelle, with physical distancing? How are you guys doing there?
We're still pretty much under lockdown. We have a couple of counties in California that are already allowing more action. So I think we're in most of the parts, we are in social bubble mode right now. And our players have started practicing in beach again. But Calheed, we're still drafting our guidelines. We still have to work our way around that. Plus, the cases right now are rising again due to the demonstrations. So, yeah, it's still a waiting game on our side, unfortunately.
It's crazy. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.